why don't we get started? I want to welcome in everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for a public hearing for the Montgomery County Democratic Party's Ballot Question Advisory Committee. It's a committee that the party has brought together to study the two ballot questions, the two questions rather on the ballot this year, the state question, the reproductive freedom question, and the county question of reducing the county executive terms from 3 to 2. So tonight, it's pretty straightforward. It's the first of a two-step process that we've got going on. So the BQAC is going to hear from folks tonight who want to testify on these two questions. We're excited to hear what you have to say. Your testimony, both verbal and testimony that folks have submitted, is going to help inform the report that we are going to be writing to the full Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee and the Democratic Precinct Organization, which then takes a vote. The precinct organization takes a vote to recommend a position of the party, and then the party itself will vote to take an affirmative stance on the questions. That will happen on September 12th. So this is step one of two, and we appreciate you being a part of both. Seth Grimes, my colleague from the Central Committee, is going to put some links in the chat. So he's put a link there to a page we have up on our website that gives some more information about the ballot questions, also some more information about our process. Excuse me. I would note that that meeting on the 12th is going to be live streamed on Zoom for the public to view, but it is a in-person meeting for the Democratic Central Committee and our precinct officials who will actually take that vote. If there are questions from precinct officials here about that meeting on the 12th, best to send those by email to the office so that we can handle those offline. So I'm not gonna wind us up too much with further ado, other than introducing members of the BQAC. I should have started by saying, hi, I'm Will Roberts. I'm a member of the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee representing District 15 in northwestern Montgomery County. And I'm the chair of the BQAC this year. Want to kick it to my colleagues to introduce themselves, and then we'll turn to folks who have signed up to testify. And I'll do a little bit of set dressing after that, but I'll turn it to Jim first, since you're right to my left on screen. You may be to my left politically. I don't know, Jim, but you're my left on screen. So
Hi, my name is Jim Michaels. I represent the District 16 on the Democratic Central Committee, and this is my third consecutive election sitting on the Ballot Questions Committee. One thing I do want to note is the Ballot Questions Committee itself does not take any position on the ballot questions. Our job is to gather information and to provide that to our precinct organization members and to our Central Committee members. But we do not vote on the ballot questions as such, and we don't take committee positions. I do want to give a slight disclosure here for full transparency, which is that I have a second role. I am also chairing the county's Charter Review Commission. And this year, the Charter Review Commission did take a position on County Question A on term limits. And so as the chair, I voted on that, and I testified in front of the council on the Charter Review Commission's position and on my position, which were the same. We were unanimous, voting, being opposed to Question A. And so I have actually personally taken a position already, but that has no bearing on what the Ballot Questions Committee's task is here. So with that, I will turn it over next person, Ed or Elliot.
Hi, Ed Fishman, Central Committee as well, District 18. It's my first first term in the Central Committee, so my first go around on the BQAC. Looking forward to hearing people's take on these questions and getting it into our report, which, as Jim says, does not take a position, but hopefully provides the information for the precinct organization.
So, and why don't we pass it over to I think Andrea, oh, there you are, right in the center of my screen. Hey, Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Shedler. I'm not on the Central Committee. I'm just a very enthusiastic volunteer. Hello.
And we appreciate your enthusiasm. and rounding home for us, Elliot, with
Hi.
your fantastic Harris shirt.
Hi, I'm Elliot Greenwald. I'm a precinct official, just like Andrea, and also the president of the District 16 Democratic Club. And I'm glad to be here. And I'm looking forward to everyone's testimony, of those who are testifying. And I'm glad to see that Rich Madalino has solved his video problem, so that way we can see Rich when he testifies.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Elliot. Well, thanks everyone. I have our list up here, folks who, again, thank everybody for joining. For folks who are just interested in hearing from folks in the conversation, it's really important that we do that we take part in the civic and political life of the county. So appreciate folks who are here just to learn more, and appreciate the folks who signed up to testify. So I've got 8 folks here in our sheet that have submitted an interest, 9 actually, submitted an interest to testify tonight. And so I am just, give me just 1 second, so I can make sure I have that up here. So as we indicated on the sign-in sheet, folks will have 2 minutes to speak per question. There's some folks who signed up to testify on both questions. You'll get 4 minutes. I'm going to run down the list here. As I said, we have 8 or 9 folks scheduled, and so once we hear from everyone, conclude our business for the evening, so we won't keep you too long. Folks, when I call your name to testify, you're welcome to turn on your camera if you'd like to, just so we can see who was here. But definitely welcome to turn on your camera and unmute yourself to testify. We just ask and we expect, of course, everybody to keep things focused on the topics at hand and keep conversation respectful. So I trust we can all do that. But if we can't, we'll make sure that we do. With that, I'm gonna start. Is Thomas Jackson with us this evening? Thomas going once, going twice. Okay, we'll circle back to Thomas. Thomas might not be here yet. Do we have Rosemary Little here yet? Rosemary going once, going twice. Okay. And there are some people that I definitely know we have. So Scott Schneider, I know I saw you, Scott. You're next up on my list here. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Will.
So I'm also going to play timekeeper. So I don't have any fancy cards, but when I do a bunch of waving, I'll hold my hand up when you got sort of 15 seconds left, and then I'll do a bunch of waving when you're done. All right.
Okay, I'll be short. Yeah, I just wanted to concur with the Charter Review Commission is that I think that we shouldn't support this ballot question on term limits. It doesn't make any sense. Number one, because the county council members are limited to 3 terms, and I don't see why the county executive should be limited to 2. But second of all, this is clearly a Republican attempt to try to get rid of Mark, which I think we need to oppose as a party. And I think we should be aggressive in opposing it. And I personally, if we're not going to oppose this, I feel uncomfortable sitting at the polls representing the party if we're not going to be strongly opposed to this ballot question. So anyway, that's all I had to say, and I'll turn off my camera and listen to the rest of the meeting. Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that. Appreciate your brevity, quick to the point. Unfortunately, I can't yield your additional minute and 20 seconds to our next speaker, but that's okay because I think that she will be able to make well use of her time. So Dolly, I see you, my friend. Great to see you. Dolly Kildee up next. And Dolly, I think you're testifying on the charter amendment as well, right?
I am. Okay. Thank you, Will. Yeah, first of all, we already have term limits. One is a 3-term limit that took effect in 2018, less than 3 terms ago. Elections themselves are also term limits. The current attempt to reduce the term limit is the effort of those who were unable to win an election the established way. Instead, they seek to subvert the will of the electorate because they know they can't win a fair and open election. This effort was initiated by the Committee for quote unquote better government and the unsuccessful Republican candidate for county executive in 2020. It is funded largely by a PAC that supported a Democratic candidate who lost in 2018 and 2022. I wondered how this all came about, so I visited their website, and it's the usual conspiracy theory mentality. Their stated objective is to ensure that the Montgomery County executive not serve longer than the US president or the Maryland governor. Why is that even relevant? It isn't. If you're looking to model other governments, why not look at government that serves government closer to the people at the top elected officials of the county municipal governments? They do not have term limits. This committee that collected the necessary signatures has taken a page from the National Republican playbook of trying to change the rules when they can't win, instead of putting forward candidates that people want to vote for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Much appreciated. Next up on our list, Kathy Kelly. Are you here, Kathy? Hey, Kathy.
Hi.
And Kathy, we have you as testifying on the reproductive freedom question, right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, take it away.
Abortion through birth has been legal in Maryland since the 1991 Maryland Freedom of Choice Act. The law went to referendum in 92, and 62% of Marylanders voted in favor of that law. Since that time, support for abortion has grown. Abortion is permitted through birth in Maryland. There are 2 all-trimester abortion clinics in Maryland. Many laws have passed that further protect and promote abortion, including the 2022 Abortion Care Access Act, which provided that abortion be fully funded. The amendment is not simply an abortion amendment. If it were, the word abortion would be in the amendment. Reproductive freedom is not defined in the amendment, nor anywhere in Maryland law. It is an ambiguous term. The first words of the amendment are that every person. It doesn't say every adult person or every person over the age of 18. Efforts to include minimum age requirements and parental consent requirements were rejected. Any current laws that address parental consent will be superseded by this amendment. The amendment covers a new right called reproductive freedom that will apply to all individuals, regardless of age. Minor children will be able to obtain drugs and surgeries that pertain to their reproductive system and their anatomy without their parents' guidance. Pro-choice Marylanders should not have to sacrifice parental rights for a badly written amendment when abortion is already unrestricted and fully funded by Maryland law. People can be pro-choice and pro-parents. Don't throw parental rights out the window. You should recommend that we vote no on question 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Right at time. Let's see, next up. Jake Didinsky. Hope I'm pronouncing your last name correct, Jake.
You got it. Good job.
Wonderful. And you're testifying on both, correct?
I am.
All right, Jake. Your 4 minutes. Start when you're ready.
So I just want to quickly reiterate that very briefly going to touch on the pro-abortion amendment. I think that my belief is that abortion should be made more clear-cut, and I think that this amendment does that, for the record. I think that more to the point, as someone who is non-binary, I don't really want my parents ever telling me what I can and can't do with my own body when I decide I want care. And I understand that that's not every family, but that is my family. And so I think that it's certainly worth something talking about, but rather, I would urge you guys to, vote for that one. I do want to spend most of this time talking, however, about the term limits. And this is because I think that this entire argument has been taken so far out of context and twisted with statistics that arguably are just laughable at this point. The biggest one I can give you is that, people will tell you what 87% of people will support term limits. Sure, for U.S. Congress members, not for their local county executives. The Committee for Better Governance, which is a laughable name at best and an outright lie at worst, if we're being truthfully honest here, because there's no better governance coming from them. They conveniently say, well, who wouldn't want an Obama third term? Well, who doesn't want a Mitch McConnell 27th term is this person. So I think that if we're going to have arguments about term limits, someone like me who was younger would be happy to have those about positions that actually matter, like limiting the Senate, because the facts that are left out are that in that same exact poll, for example, 79% of people said that they favored a maximum age limit for people serving in the Congress. And I can't see anybody lining up to vote for that. And 74% of people supported a max age and a term limit for Supreme Court justices. But again, I don't see a lot of people lining up to support that. This is an initiative aimed directly at a political operative who the Republicans have shown an inability to beat, full stop. Full stop. It's that simple. More to the point, it should be made clear that I am not Mark Elrich's biggest fan. I've made that very, very, very clear. But what is happening here is undemocratic and it is wrong. And the charter amendment should not be used for something that is just straight up political. That's not, you don't change our county's constitution because you can't win an election. Not to mention, if you can't run people for every other county, council position, put your effort into that instead of meaningless, useless, arguably laughable, amendments. The only other thing I would point out to you is that Abraham Lincoln said in Gettysburg Address that, that these dead shall not have died in vain. This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. Not for some of the people, for all of the people. 10,000 signatures is too few to drastically change and take away a freedom for people like me in this county. So this Central Committee has no choice but to come out forcefully and loudly saying that they are against decreasing the term limits. Like, it's insane. It's literally insane. And with that, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Jake. We appreciate that. Next up, Rich Madaleno. Hey, Rich. Good to see you on video. Testifying on both. You can take it away when you're ready.
Thank you, Will, very much. I'm so glad to be on video because I've lost weight and I want everyone to see it.
You look great, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you. So the most attractive people support question 1 and oppose question A. So just want to say, remind everyone that in the polling, again, because this is the Democratic Central Committee, it's very important to note this when talking to people. When it comes to voters, Democratic aligned independents, polling showed in this county 4 years ago that the most important factor in voters making a decision, again, Democratic voters, Democratic leaning voters, is where is the Democratic Party and Democratic elected officials. So it is critically important for the party to take a position on these ballot initiatives, because our voters, our members, want to know where the party is and where Democratic officials are. So that's why this is critically important to informing people. And of course, on question 1, because over the last several decades, we have seen numerous choice-related ballot initiatives. We know that in many cases it's been put on by opponents. I would hate for uninformed voters to vote this down because they don't have information, especially from the Democratic Party, that this is an initiative of the Democratic leaders in the General Assembly to put this before the voters. So taking a position, I think, is a critically important sign to the voters of the origins of this amendment and why they should support it. Now, when it comes to question A, again, there are many reasons why we should oppose this. As Dolly said so articulately and within 2 minutes, we need to make sure that the Republicans, and let's face it, who's left as a Republican in Montgomery County, the Trump-loving side, that this is their initiative. They've lost every election they've sought at every level in Montgomery County since 2002. They cannot find candidates that attract voters, so they're trying to diminish our ability to govern. We should not let them do that. And the proverbial camel's nose under the tent. If they succeed at this, what else will they try next? Very important to make sure They cannot destabilize our ability to govern when the voters overwhelmingly support Democratic candidates in the general election. It is important from a continuity of leadership. The way our county is set up, if you don't have these 3 terms, it is the opportunity for 3 terms. It is very difficult to get things done. We have a strong council system. We have a part-time General Assembly. The way the rest of the charters are organized, the county executive, every position the county executive appoints must be confirmed by the county council. That is a laborious process. Having seen it at work, it would take years to get an administration together. You're running for re-election by the time you have a group, an administration filled out. You need to give an executive the opportunity for 3 terms. Experience and expertise. This is a complex government. This is a complex community. You need to give someone the opportunity to continue to build upon their leadership and go to the voters, right? They're not guaranteed 3 terms, but I think the ability to serve 3 terms allows them to demonstrate that experience and expertise. Voter choice. Hey, every 4 years we have an election. You don't like the executive, toss them out. The rules shouldn't limit the time that they should spend in office. Impact on long-term planning. Again, the way we have this process set up, the voters expect an executive to have an impact on these decisions. 3 terms, just 2 terms would make it very difficult for an executive to get involved in decisions. Stability during crisis, comparative disadvantage to other jurisdictions, the disruption of the county government. You don't want to do this, which is why it's very important for vote for question 1, vote against question A. Don't let them take our rights away.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Will.
All right. Next up, Debbie. Hey, Debbie Spielberg, on both.
Hello. Hi. My name is Debbie Spielberg, and appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Just a little background. I'm a longtime volunteer in a number of local and other campaigns. In 2018, I was proud to chair the campaign to elect Mark Elrich as county executive. I've been a congressional staffer, council staffer, and now I work for the county executive. But I'm here tonight as a proud Democrat and as a Montgomery County resident. So I want to just briefly and quickly address question 1. I think it's very important to clearly state our unequivocal support for reproductive rights and choice, and that it be protected in the state constitution. And I hope that you'll agree, and that it is important that the Democratic Party take the position as for 1. And in what I believe is also about choice, I respectfully urge you to be against question A, that would reduce the CE's term limits from 3 to 2. I want to just run through some of the big points. As Mo Udall used to say, everything has been said, but not everyone's had a chance to say it. So as has been said and said so well, this is a Republican initiative. It's led by the head of the Republican Party. Both question 1 and question A reflect Republican assaults on choice regarding term limits. As was said, Republicans don't win at the ballot box, so they want to figure out a different way to subvert choice. As y'all know, term limits already exist, 3 terms for county executive and 3 terms for council members. At the very least, they should stay the same and should not be less than 3 terms. As was said, the term limits passed in 2016 took effect in 2018. It's not even been 12 years or 3 terms since it's passed. It's arbitrary and premature to try to change it now. Term limits, I feel strongly about this one. I know others disagree. Term limits take away choice from voters. We have term limits. They're called elections. I'm very familiar with very close elections, and everybody's vote makes a difference. And the big barrier to me, if you support new voices and people in elected office, it's the money. We have an amazing public financing program in Montgomery County. That's the kind of thing we should be supporting more. I think it's a huge game changer. the place to exercise choice is at the ballot box. And then finally, the Charter Review Commission, as probably was said, is made up of Democrats, Republican, and Independents, and they unanimously opposed question A. So they are appointed they're appointed by both the council, the county executive, and not at all of one party, and they were unanimous. So please vote to support 4-1 and against A. Don't let them take our choice away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Oops, sorry, I messed up my windows here. Just a second. All right. Thank you very much for that. Next up on our list, I'm trying to see, I was trying to look at the participant list also. I have Catherine Leggett next up on our list, our former First Lady, but I don't see Catherine here. Give her a couple more seconds, and I'm gonna round back up to the top of our list because, as I said, we had a lot of folks sign up to listen in, and a couple of folks sign up to chat. So has Thomas Jackson joined us? Thomas gone once, Thomas gone twice. Sorry, in case anybody heard my 5-year-old, I am in the room next to her playroom, so I am encroaching on her real estate. Is Rosemary Little with us? Rosemary, going once, going twice. All right. And has Catherine been able to join us, Mrs. Leggett? Going once, going twice. Okay, I don't see her. The good news is, if you didn't get a chance to speak with folks tonight, we are going to leave the portal open to submit written testimony until September 10th. So it closes 2 days before the precinct organization gets together to discuss and take their votes, and the central committee takes the votes the same evening. I'm going to thank everybody for coming out and sharing your views. Much appreciated. Again, really important to do, to take part in the civic and political life of our county. And I know so many familiar faces here who do that regularly, but get to see some new ones also. Want to make sure that I see Dave, I see your hand up. I just want to make sure if there are sort of technical questions on the process, we're happy to answer that. If there are additional questions about sort of the substance of the ballot questions themselves, we may not be able to get into that. So, but since we are not pressed for time, Dave, I'm happy to take your question and see if we can answer it briefly, and see if anybody else has any other questions.
I'm looking at question 1, and I don't understand the end of the sentence. I don't understand what this means. Abridge the right unless justified by a compelling state interest achieved by the least restrictive means. Can anyone give me an instance of what that means? I don't understand that.
Gotcha, Dave. So in this instance, that's one of those questions that I mentioned that we're not going to be able to dig into in this conversation. We're happy to point you in the direction of some resources there that help break down sort of what that means. And of course, as we are taking in information to come up with the party's position, we'll be asking ourselves that question as well. But as Jim said at the top, this is the conversation where we hear people's views on what's there. But I hear you on trying to understand what these mean. Folks are trying to wade through that, and there's some great resources out there that we will be sure to share with you. Any other questions that I can answer for folks on process or timing? If not, really appreciate you spending some time with us on a Wednesday evening. It's still Wednesday, right? I never know what day it is. Still Wednesday. So thanks very much for coming out. Again, folks can find out more information in those links that Seth shared in the chat. also on the MCDCC, the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee's website. A reminder again for precinct officials in the room, in the Zoom room, the meeting on the 12th where you're going to vote and where the Central Committee is going to vote is an in-person meeting. A reminder for the public that that is a meeting that is viewable to the public, but it's not open for public participation. So if you're interested in viewing that meeting and seeing what goes on there, you can sign up on the Central Committee's website for the Zoom webinar. If you're a precinct official or a Central Committee member, we look forward to seeing you there to take a vote. With that, hope folks have a great evening, and we'll see you later. Take care. And since we're all Democrats, go Harris, Walls, and everybody up and down the ticket. Let's win. Take care.
When we
Bye-bye.
organize, we win.
That's right.
Joy.
When we organize, we
Joy.
win.
All about joy.
All joy. All joy.
Joy.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.